Alrighty. So, again, what we're going to be looking at on today is, let's straighten this up a little bit. Are these happen throughout our ecosystem and how humans actually have an activity and playing a role in kind of disrupting these cycles or helping these cycles go along. So within your note sheet that you have in front of you that looks like this, you're going to actually have 3 cycles that are going to be on there. What is one of the cycles that has probably been drilled in your head since 5th grade? The water cycle. So let's start off with kind of just illustrating the water cycle. What should we start first? Okay, so definitely the sun. Why? Because that's where it all starts. And you all learned that on yesterday when you did your food web. And your food web was showing, this entire page on the front, and then we're going to take because it's going to encompass all of the cycles in one. Because in our life, the cycles happen all in one. We don't have a portion of the world where the water cycle is happening, another portion where another part's happening. It all happens all together. So yesterday when you did your food webs, you all saw how the energy flowed throughout the consumerism of organisms and the decomposition of organisms and the productions throughout organisms. All of that happens, of course, within these cycles as well. That's part of an ecosystem. But also part of the ecosystem, we've learned that it's not just biotic, it's also abiotic. So that's why we have our sun, because that controls the climate, the temperature, but the sun helps to produce everything. So then what happened? What should we put in from there? Precipitation. But where does precipitation come from? Clouds, which is a symbol of condensation. Very good. So we have our wonderful clouds. And again, you can draw your picture as pretty as you want it to be, or as not so pretty, or whatever. And in honor of Prince, I'm going to do some purple rain. I know it's not, but again, I'm honoring an icon. So if this were yesterday, prior to his death, then my rain would have been blue. All right, so we have our condensation. We have our power, which is our sun. We have our purple rain, rest in peace, Prince, which is our precipitation. Then what? Evaporation. But where can it evaporate from? Oceans or any other body of water. All right, so I'm going to put a body of water. I'm going to just put a little river maybe flowing here off into the distance. And this is my evaporation. Was that it? Then what? Transpiration, but where does that come from? A plant. So we need to have some land, correct? All right. I'm even going to put a hill. You know what? I'm going to put a little mountain here. This is my little mountain. And I'll add a tree. I'm actually add a bush, a little bush. Now, most people probably would draw their bushes little scribble-dibble lines, because you're not a true artist. So mine is actually the real way that they should be drawn, because this is a real bush. Right, Angry Smurf? Yes, say right. There you go. Yeah. It's a little bush. And so the reason why we drew this bush is because you told us we have what? Transpiration. What is transpiration? Evaporation from a plant. So I'm going to draw that in blue. And I'm going to draw it light blue because we actually don't necessarily see this. Thank you. Mine? Not yours, mine. Mine. All right, is that it? No, what else do we have? Runoff. What is runoff? And not just a hill, it could also run off of land, off of ground. And because I got my Purple Rain, rest in peace, Prince, it's going to run off this mountain here. And that's my runoff. All right? Anything else? Anything else? I can figure 2 more things out. Okay, so let me demonstrate it for her. Again, my rain not always hits just the mountain. It also can hit the land. And it can go inside of the land. So when it breaks into the land, that is infiltration. Then it, oh, we got Captain is absent. And then it moves through, which is percolation. Well, I know you heard of the song, It's Time for the Percolator. It's time for the percolator. I don't like that song. But anyway, it is percolation. Percolate means to move. So the water breaks in, it infiltrates, then it moves through the ground, and then it becomes groundwater. But notice the rain can also hit the water. If it goes back to the water, what is that? Starts with a C. This would be collection, meaning the earth is recollecting it. So there we have our water cycle. Any questions with that? All right. So now we're going to look at another cycle that happens. All right. So our next cycle down here is our carbon cycle. And where does carbon come from? I mean, like, how can it get back into our atmosphere? What did we learn from biology? Where is carbon? In plants and All forms of life. Carbon exists in every living thing. So, how can carbon to the atmosphere, back into the atmosphere? What did you learn from that video? Okay, so when we burn it, okay, so what do we need to add to this picture to show how carbon's getting back into the atmosphere? We could add a factory. What else can we add? A car. A living thing. So, in this little spot here, and you can put yours wherever. In this little spot here, I'm going to actually put I'm going to put a bunny. I know. I told you that. So here is, I'm going to do my bunny light up brown. I'm going to put my bunny right here because I want my bunny. That bunny is perfect. Yes, this bunny is. And bunnies have pink inside of their ears, so. That's pink on my screen. It's just that the way the light shines there for you. Okay, so pink inside of the ears. And my bunny is actually eating a leaf. Because bunnies are what type of consumer? A primary consumer. Why? Because it eats the plants. So, here we have our bunny taking a leaf. What is this showing? If it's taking in the leaf, it's doing what? Doing what? It's taking in what? Carbon. So, I'm going to put an arrow here and put a C for carbon going to the bunny. Now, the bunny is going to, when you breathe in, you're taking in carbon. But when you breathe out, what happens? You're exhaling carbon. So I'm also going to put an arrow coming from the bunny with the C. You want to put a little key down at the bottom, C equals carbon. Just like any living thing, when they eat, they do what? Besides sleep and pee, they poop. So here's my little poop emoji. I'm going to call it poop. And what happens with that poop? It goes into the, it just sits there on the ground, or what happens to it? It breaks into the ground. What's that called? It decomposes into the ground. So when it does that, it puts carbon back into the soil. What grows from the soil? Plants. Now, when you see this bunny, not only does he release it to the plant, but he just releases it into the atmosphere, period. And so does the plant, just releases it into the atmosphere, period. This carbon that is within the soil over here, I'm going to still put my C's because it's just within the soil. Here, we can have what Brianna said, that we can have a factory. Got my factory gray. My little building. And I'm just going to make it small. But that carbon is going to be, we dig for it and we dig through that for that carbon, we get what? Oil, coal, and natural gases. So this carbon is going to give us fossil fuel, which is what our earth science is learning right now. That fossil fuel is used to do what? Energy, so it's used to do what? Drive. Run electricity. So our power. So I'm going to use that by giving it to this building for power. Uh-oh, sorry. This Move this out of the way. If I do, see it becomes small. So I just have my building over here where you can't see, and then I have fossil fuel and then power. And that's our carbon cycle. I can't move this because then you won't be able to see it because it's the projector. But this is the building over here. Matrix. But then we also have other organisms that live in the water, like our fishies. And they also benefit from the carbon. And that's how they get it, because they obviously have carbon in them because they're living things. But we also can get it if we eat a fish or eat other animals, just like the rabbit got it from eating the leaves. Any questions for this? All right, then we're going to take a look at a short video about our nitrogen cycle, and then we're going to draw it. And that's actually going to piggyback off of what we've already drawn. Okay, so with our nitrogen cycle, what was the one way that it got into the air? How did it get into the air? How did the nitrogen get into the air? Lightning. My lightning striking. This is some crazy lightning. Yep, that's exactly how it looks. And then this one is not so crazy. Something wrong with you if you can't draw a crooked line. I'm just letting you know. So here's where our nitrogen, and I'm going to do our nitrogen with ends and red ends. But this is our nitrogen getting into the air. And of course, it's all over, so it's getting all into the air. It's going to be picked up from our plants. Because our animals eat it, it's going to then what? Our animals are eating the plants that have nitrogen, so then what's going to happen? They're going to go to the animals. The animals are going to breathe out, so what are they going to breathe out? Nitrogen. That poop is also going to add what into the soil? Nitrogen. That's going to be within the soil to help what happen? Nitrogen fixation, which helps do what? Break it down into something we can use. What's going to use it here? The plants. And then, of course, it's going to get back into the water. So our fish are going to also have it. We have 3 cycles in one, just in an everyday life. Any questions about the picture? Because on the back, we're going to flip over and just going to take a couple pieces of notes. Can I flip over to the back? Okay, I'll give you a moment. Are we good now? Yes? Okay. On the back, with your pencil or your colored pencil or whatever you choose to write with. Here we're going to put cycles in human activity. And that is actually going to be the title of page 94. We're going to start off by looking at the water cycle. When we say human activity, we're looking at what things that we do to kind of disrupt the ecosystem, and the ecosystem includes these cycles. So first we're going to look at the water cycle. You can see, right? What is some human activity that occurs that disrupts the water cycle? And when we say the water cycle, that's putting water back into the atmosphere, but the type